fan. Welcome to another episode of You,
Me,
and the Flea. We are coming off of a holiday weekend. Well, kind of. Last week we had our episode, but I feel like I'm still recovering.
I agree.
When there's a holiday in the middle of the week, I am just so thrown off. But did you have a good 4th?
I did. I had a good 4th. I was back in Michigan, hung out with the family. My parents and my aunt and uncle actually had like a combined like family party.
Fun.
So saw everyone. So that's like so fun because I feel like it's always hard when I go home. Everyone wants to see me. You know this. You go back to Indiana all the time, and then you just can't see everyone in one visit. It's impossible unless you're coming to me. Like I'm not driving around the whole state.
Yeah. So can we throw a barbecue where everyone gets together?
Please.
I can knock it all out and then keep it moving.
I agree.
Nice. Well, what else is going on?
I mean, it's summer.
I know we're like almost in the middle, which is kind of sad.
Time? Why?
I don't know.
I feel like we always are like time is flying, but like it's
wild.
literally the 7th month of the year. We're already more than halfway done.
I know.
So
I feel like I just set New Year's resolutions, and here we are. Like, oh, cool.
You know,
Episode 11.
I always like to do like a 6-month check.
Yeah.
I don't call
Okay, so
them
let's
resolutions.
do it. How is
I do goals.
Let's do the check-ins. How's it going?
Everything is checked off.
You mean the Flea? Check. We've launched. We're live. This is episode 11, which is insane. Mm-hmm. And gosh, we're just growing and growing here.
Yeah.
So that's fun. Work-wise, right?
A new, bigger place. Check.
Yes, that's awesome.
Yep.
We're grooving, man.
We're grooving.
I think
we're moving and grooving.
I think we're moving in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Nice.
You know, it's all about small wins.
Mm-hmm.
Small wins add up to the big ones.
Absolutely.
So,
anything else that we're looking forward to this summer?
my friends actually just came to town a few weeks ago, and we went to, I don't know if you've ever been. It's in Westtown. It's called Yuzu Sushi.
Oh, yes. One of my favorites.
I actually think it might be one of mine in Chicago as well.
Yeah, it's really good.
We took them. We ate so much food, but it was so good. And I think too, like what is cool about that, the music. They have like great music. There's a DJ there sometimes. The rolls come out and they're like beautiful.
It's so
it's literally
artistic.
art.
They're the sauces that they use, and everything is so just well thought out and really, it's gorgeous. Like their presentation is beautiful.
Yeah.
If you haven't tried, I definitely recommend.
Absolutely.
It's so
Me too.
good. I love their skewers personally. Like,
okay.
I don't know if you've ever tried those. It's like, it's weird because
they ordered one of them.
Yeah, you see it like in the top of the of their menu, but I thought they were excellent every time we would go. So
I will say also their menu is so cool. It's so different than like you scan the QR code and you think it's going to be like your normal menu. A lot of the food on the menu has a picture.
Yeah. Oh,
which
I love.
love.
Can you please do that now? Like,
let's go.
We're visual people.
Yeah,
clearly.
agreed.
Nice.
Yeah. What about you?
I actually went to visit a friend at her lake house this past weekend, which was so fun. It's always fun to just to rekindle, relax, unplug.
For sure.
Had a great time. And man, we had our event a couple weeks ago at Swap, which was so fun and exciting. And I can't wait to like do another one of those. And so that was a lot. And I'm just keeping it moving. There's so many festivals coming up that I'm so excited about. Music festivals that I think we've been talking about going to. And
wait, so this is the week you go to Windy City?
No, it's yes. Oh, yes, it is. It's this week. So I'm really excited. It starts today, actually, I think. And so...
Is there anyone that you're, like, really dying to see?
Okay, so I've never seen Luke Bryan before, so I'm really excited to see him. I've never seen Darius, and I heard he puts on a hell of a show, too.
Okay.
Zach Bryan is, like, really taking off. He's another headliner, and then Zach Brown Band. I mean, honestly... It doesn't even matter the acts. It's like really good barbecue food.
Yep.
I love like just the energy and...
I was going to say, I feel like it's like the vibes.
It's a different, like you came with us last year.
Yep.
Hopefully you'll come with us this year. It is too, like just the way they set things up. Like it's just really cool. Like the brands really take it to another level where it's not just like, a beer tent. It's like an actual like, for example, Casamigos like tent where it's like, there's photo ops, there's like new items to try. It's very like interactive and fun, which I love about that.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. And then just a ton of like local street festivals that were still on the map.
There's like every week something you could go to.
I know, it's fun.
I feel like that's like one of the best parts about Chicago summer.
Oh, yeah,
it's like you can literally find something to do every day.
Yes,
I would say every weekend, absolutely.
In addition to our work,
which is
busy too. So catch us at the Flea, if you know what I'm saying.
I gotcha.
Something crazy too that I want to talk about that's happened, within the week or so was the Chicago smoke. Speaking of Whitney's smoke out.
Yeah.
What the Flea was that?
In my head the whole time I was like, Flea off.
Yeah, seriously.
What are we doing here? It wasn't even like it was I wouldn't even say smoky. It was just so like hazy. The air felt so thick. Yeah. I took a walk like the one day that it was like bad, not even like really thinking it would be as bad as it was. And I ended up having to like, come back earlier than anticipated. But I had like a headache for like 2 days.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are we doing here? What's going on? And also you're literally in a different country and it can travel to here. Well, New York had it bad.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was shocked about, kind of like the progression of it, because I feel like this happened a while ago up there. I remember seeing it in the headline in Canada, and then just obviously seeing New York be affected by it, which makes sense. But then, a few weeks after that, and then us then be affected, I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And it just like really freaks me out.
I know, it's so weird.
I actually wasn't in town for it, but my mom was just explaining it as like a bonfire and like
it literally for like days. Yeah. Like it just didn't
Which I
stop.
love a good bonfire smell, don't get me wrong, but constantly 24, I don't know. And it's just, I don't know.
It's weird. From my balcony, you can see like, the skyline and stuff downtown. You couldn't see anything. Yeah. It was so like eerie.
It's like a fog.
I'm like it literally just disappeared.
Right.
It was weird.
And I think like a couple days before that, it was just like super sunny too. And then just so nice. And then all of a sudden to be affected by that.
Yeah.
And I can't help but immediately think about, some things that we've talked about in terms of like secondhand selling and how important it is to just kind of like preserve the planet as much as we can. Yeah. So like, obviously we can't control disasters and things like that, but man, we got to take care of what we can. And so
do our part. Everyone needs to do their part.
Yeah. Whether it's recycling or,
reducing,
not buying.
reusing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I
so
agree.
that is something I wanted to bring up just because, being in the flea market business, it's important. And like, as much as there's so many secondhand sellers that, we'll talk about and things like that. And I think it's important that we put an emphasis on that and try to shift our thoughts and like, it's okay to buy something used and, or reuse it ourselves and repurpose something. So man, everyone be careful out there. Definitely. Which brings me back to our topic today, which, a few episodes ago we did like headlines, like flea market headlines, which was a hit and I enjoyed it and I think we had fun with it. So I'm going to bring some articles to you today and we can kind of discuss them again. Cool. So this first one comes from insider.com and the title / headline was, an influencer said she was shocked that a 1999 rug was defined as, quote, vintage by its previous owner, sparking a debate among viewers. So what this article was about was, well, first of all, it had this Ashley, her name is Ashley Dusing. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong, Ashley. Ashley had her Instagram post there. And what happened was she went to a flea market. There was a rug like rolled up and covered, tightly as rugs are, right?
Sure.
And so basically all she was able to do was kind of pull it and saw like the colors and fell in love with it. The seller was like, oh, it's vintage. And so she was like super excited. She did like an unboxing on her Instagram, took out her old rug and was like, see you later, old rug. And then like rolled out the new one and was like, what the flea is this? Because it was just like a dated rug. It wasn't like kind of an antique thing. And so it sparked so much controversy in her comments. Like I think she had, the post received 488,000 views like right off the bat. And then over like 900 comments debating like, is something from the 90s vintage?
Okay.
So first of all,
ooh,
we're millennials here. So yeah, like what do you think initially? Like, do you think do you think something from 1999 is considered vintage now? I know you have to like be like, you know, I mean, there's certain things where I'm like, okay, like butterfly clips or like, you know, things that were cool in the 2000s when we were like growing up.
I don't even think
I don't know if I would call that vintage, but it's definitely dated.
Vintage. I wouldn't call that vintage. You know what they say, like fashion always comes back.
Yeah.
Okay, for instance, like I just bought a pair of pants from Abercrombie and Fitch that were literally the same cargo pants I had in 6th grade. Like I am not joking. The color, everything, like the stitching, I'm like, okay, I should have just saved those pants. I wouldn't call that vintage. That was like a trend back then that's like coming back around. For me, if you're talking vintage, I would say older than 40 years.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So some of the comments on her posts that
were like 40 years or
more. Okay. So someone commented and said that anything that because it was 24 years old, it's considered vintage.
Okay.
Anything more than like a couple decades.
Okay.
So
wow. So
maybe we're just offended. Because I am a little bit. I'm like, wait a second. And
so you're saying we're vintage.
Like, are we vintage? That's like ridiculous. But then I'm like thinking back too, and I'm like, well, wait a second. Like, I don't know about your household, but in my household, like my mom had like old things for like from the 80s that she like decorate. Like I'm thinking back to like a rug at our house like back then, and it was like probably 70s, 80s inspired. So like that was kind of vintage, but like it wasn't, you know, it was just an old rug that my mom had. So like going back to this one, when she rolled it out in her Instagram post, you should check it out. I was like, well, I mean, it's ugly. It wasn't cute.
Okay. So did she like it?
No, she hated it. She was like so upset and put like her old one back, because her old one was like one of those like fun, like a modern take on like an oriental kind of rug.
Got it. Okay.
And so she's like, okay, this is not what I was envisioning. And so put her old one back. But yeah, like, I don't know. So that comment that said, you know, it's anything over 24 years old had like 2,500 likes on it. So like people were agreeing with her. And then someone else said that if something is decades old as promised, stop holding vintage to a modern beauty standard. So then I was thinking to myself, like, okay, like all this mid-century modern stuff, like that to me is vintage. And we're definitely putting like a modern twist on it and making it look beautiful or like tweaking it a little bit. I don't know.
I don't know either. You got me thinking like about my parents' house. My mom has like, you know, I wouldn't say vintage stuff at all. It's definitely like newer modern, but she has like I don't know if it's like my grandma's old china cabinet or something. Yeah. I would consider that vintage.
Yeah.
It's years and years old, decades.
For sure. I mean, something that like even has like history. I guess to me, vintage is like history.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess something from 1999 might have some history to it, but it's just too close to home right now for me. But there was another part of the article mentioned a TikToker named Sarah Dunk that went mega viral when she went to a thrift store and bought a Versace dress from a thrift store from 1992, and she did the same thing. Like, it caused so much controversy on like Facebook and things, and like everyone was just like shocked that she called it like vintage because it was from 1992. So
I don't know. I feel like clothing, it's different.
Yeah, I was gonna say
I feel like that
with luxury,
is vintage
with
though.
Luxury brands,
designer,
because they evolve so much. Yeah, like
that's vintage Versace.
Right.
We're not arguing that. That's my take on it.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah,
so
I don't know why, but I feel like there is a difference. Like I've made it, you know, a comment before. I'm like, I think it's cool that I can go to the flea market and get a vintage T-shirt.
Right.
That's vintage.
Okay, so and again, this is probably why it's such a debate, because I agree with that, where it's like if I found
it's different based on the scenario,
right?
If
like
it's vintage or
if
not.
I found a Michael Jordan shirt from '97 at the flea market, and I was like, man, that is a vintage tee. Like, I don't know why in my mind that is so clear that is a vintage item, because that T-shirt. Again, because it's to me, it's a history thing. It's like, well, that's when they won. It was a big like deal.
So are we only calling vintage things that have like a historical
I guess
thing around them?
I guess. But then right? Like, yeah, this is an interesting one. So you have to tell us how you feel, Flea fam, because this is
what's vintage to you.
Yeah, what is vintage, I guess. And so that was kind of the thing. So she was really just upset like at the seller for calling it vintage when it's not. But I mean, hey, what's vintage to you? It might not be vintage to someone else. Yeah. So that is our first article. Okay. So interesting to hear what everyone else has to say and people's take. Yeah. The next one came from Element-T Online. Okay. Which it's like the Laredo, Texas local newspaper. And so the headline here was Laredo antique dealer describes life searching for hidden treasures. And this article was about a gentleman and his wife, Roberto Rodriguez, and his wife, Raquel. And they just basically talked about like their whole life just shopping and his love of antiques and collectibles and how it turned into his business. Okay. And now they sell at a flea market, and then they also have their own storefront. And so basically he was just like talking about how like people today kind of don't have as much value on antiques as they used to. He talked about like pawn shops and the story behind items, and how that's kind of one reason why he loves them so much is there's always, so much story and love behind like items. For example, I know you've mentioned like rings from your grandma and things like that. And it's like, he loves hearing about things like that. Uh-huh. And so that's like one of his like big motivators why he's in the business, which I found interesting and is true. Like, and then he just talks about like how now he's so experienced, if you will, where now he can see an item, whether it's like a book, a record, whatever it is, and like just look at like the color and kind of the material of things, and he's able to like kind of
figure it
exactly, like spitfire like where it's from, how old it is, if it even is like worth anything or not. And which I thought was so interesting, because a lot of them do that. And I always crack up because I'll like go shopping with my mom, and she's like, oh, that's an antique. And I'm like, no, it's just old. You know what I mean? But she's like, that's worth something. And I'm like, we ain't the experts, but
we are not.
I don't know if you've ever like had that happen, but
I mean, yeah, I'm sure Wanda has said something along the way.
So, and also he was talking about how at his store, he loves when people come in and like admire it, and mentioned so many times how it's an inconsistent business because he never knows, how well he's going to do, because sometimes you can't keep an item fast enough. Like he'll bring in an item and it goes right away. And then other times there'll be items
that are there for a long
forever,
time.
For like 15 years. Yeah. And he's like, I'm not selling it. Like people just don't see a value in it or whatever. And so anyways, I thought this was really interesting. He said one time he bought a painting that he had no idea what it was, and then found out that it was an original painting from a really famous artist, and then made great money from that in an auction. I always like envy people like this, man, because I'm just like, how do you know? It's just such a gamble for me. Like, I guess, I mean, now that he's experienced, it's different, but that was very interesting to me. His favorite things to collect are coins, signs, old books, and radios. He found a Bible from 1818 in a pile of clothing. Okay, so he like bought a pile of used clothing, was like, okay, I'm gonna buy this. Found this Bible, and it was like inside of it was like an entire family history of like a family tree, when people died, when people got married, of this like the Frost family. So if you're the Frost family from Philadelphia, please hit up my guy in Laredo. Wow. And it was so like intricately written and stuff. And he's like, whoa, this is like a big deal. And he like mentioned in the article that he's been trying to find this family for like 15 plus years, which I also thought was super cool.
Yeah.
Another main customer of his was this man named Larry Poog. And Larry also mentioned his love for collectibles, and he loves just coming out to see his collection and his storefront and the flea market business. And he had mentioned that he bought a 1962 Corvette for cheap, like way back then.
Yeah.
Sold it and put his 3 daughters through college. And I was like,
he bought that at a flea market?
What the heck?
He bought that at a flea market?
I think he like had it in his possession already, if I'm not mistaken, from the article. It was a little vague, but he did not buy that from the flea.
Okay.
That'd be cool, though.
I was like, wow.
But no, I was just like, man, again, I guess
it goes to show you that like there is money and value in a lot of things that people don't like realize.
Right.
Hidden gems.
Exactly. And so the article ended with a quote from him that said, I hope that people continue to appreciate the olds. I think the biggest motivation for everyone should be to keep the antique items and prevent them from being destroyed in order to teach the new generations how life was when we lived in the past, without internet, without electronic games, understand the past, learn from it, and build a better future. Love that closing so much. And I am not a collector by any means. Like I've just never been interested in anything enough. And so I found this like so interesting that the last quote really hit me, because I'm like, man, it really is our history. And it kind of goes back to the first article where it's like, we're so quick to throw like these terms vintage and old and there's just a stigma of like getting rid of stuff. Right. And man, like if we do that and if we don't have people like him who actually kind of archive everything and display it nicely for us and are able to talk about it, what do we have to share, with years to come? Yeah. So I hope these people keep it up, because
I feel like there's always going to be like a demand for it.
Right.
There always will be. They've always been around.
Right.
Flea markets, thrift stores. They're not going to stop now. Right. I feel like if anything, there's going to be more.
Well, and I love to your point before, where it's like so many like things always come back. And so I love that part too, where it's like, you might see something new. And I always see that as a talking point with like the little kids in my family when they're like, oh, that's so cool. And I'm like, oh, we had that, or like same thing with like my sister, like my older sister, she'll mention some things and she'll be like, oh yeah, we had that too. Like those are the shoes I used to wear or whatever. Yeah. And it's just so funny because you don't think about that and how things and again, like to his point, it's like, these are talking points. These are teaching lessons, which I thought was really cool.
I agree. So
that was that headline.
You had some good articles over here.
I know, these were good. Okay. So this next one was super interesting to me. And this is coming from fleamarketflipper.com. The story was about this man named Robert and his wife, Melissa. And the title of the article was How I Quit My Job 5 years Ago to Flea Market Flip Stuff Full Time. Now, this article was a lengthy one, but this man really went into depth about his current decision. He was a insurance inspector full time. At the time, his wife was expecting their third child. Both of the previous children were under 3 years old. Okay. So little kids, growing family. His wife was a fitness trainer. She quit her job to stay at home with the kids. And so he had kind of made this decision of, I want to be home more. He had flexibility. As we know, like inspectors have kind of a flexibility where it's like, they're given cases and you can kind of make your own schedule and stuff. Sure. So it wasn't your typical 9-to-5 desk job. Right. So he was cool with that. And then basically he was just talking about how he took his first money and last year made $133,000 his first year of flipping things. So this is insane, right? He talked about things that he flipped. So I'll give you some examples. He found a Harley Davidson sign that he bought for $250, sold it for $7,500 plus shipping. Wild.
What?
This is what I'm talking. Like, I'm like, all this time me and you walking around the Flea, we could be making some big money, I feel like. If we knew what to look buy. For. So then he found other signs, which we did an Instagram post recently on like license plates, like all those kind of like antique things. Yeah. These were like kind of like that, just like old bar signs and things like that. He bought like a plethora of them for $618. Sold the same collection, not as a whole, but individually, for $8,888.
That is crazy.
They started their business by buying 60 sleep number mattresses, bought them for $60 each, sold them on eBay for $500 a piece. Do the math there.
Yeah.
Like insane. And then like there was just like more and more in the article on like how then they were able to buy a truck, and then they were able to kind of tour the country for flea markets and visit them and see what they could find. And now they're just like really good hunters where they'll just buy like bulk items and flip them. And that is what they do full time. And he's like, you know, we're able to make this fun with our family. For sure. You know, like pack them in the car. Like, you know, they have a trailer now, and they're like, we're like making a vacation out of their work.
Like,
love that. Would you think about that ever?
I mean, if I feel like if you have like the eye for it, what is it?
Just a hustle.
Well, the hustle I can get. I feel like me and you are like, I don't want to say natural born hustlers, but I feel like we are. I could see us doing something. I don't know that it would be necessarily that, but I feel like once you figure it out, like what's working, what people want, you know, kind of like recording in these episodes and seeing what like people are like drawn to over episode, you know, compared to the other episode. I think it's so cool that he was able to quit his job, provide for his family still, and do something he's so passionate about. That's the goal.
And then he mentioned that the way this started was he saw a chair. There was a photo of the chair. It was just like a basic dining chair, accent chair, in a dumpster. Took it and sold it for $50. And that's where he was like,
okay, there's money to be made here.
Exactly.
Yep.
There's something here.
Yep.
So now that him and his wife teach classes, several courses, hundreds of people, 700, I think to be exact.
On how to do this.
Yes. On how to start doing this and how to start just flipping things and selling.
Yeah.
So I don't know. This is a whole thing in itself. It sounds like a lot of work. I'm not going to lie. Like you mentioned that like we're both hustlers and stuff, which we are, but lugging things around and like hunting and gathering and like, which I kind of love the father-wife do. Exactly. Cause it's like,
you need like a partner in crime there helping
100%. Like someone needs to handle the front end and someone needs to handle the back end. And I think that's why it works. It's worked for them.
Yep.
So then he highlighted a couple of the families that he's helped.
Okay.
So he mentioned this older couple named Joan and Jack who retired and made $6,800 in 82 days flipping things. He mentioned another couple, Brandon and Steph. They have 6 kids and just for fun on the side started flipping and made $26,000 as a side hustle. And then this other girl just started flipping items and she made she paid off $65,000 in debt in 14 months.
What?
Just, can you come sell for me and I'll give you a
also, what's the course? Maybe I need to watch it. Maybe I need to attend.
So anyways, and then it ended the article with kind of him just accrediting everything to like the flea markets and people, you know, because there are people that are selling their stuff or maybe don't have the capacity to sell it on their own or flip it. And it's like, hey, there is other people out there that are down to do it for you or for themselves, you know? And so help me help you.
Yeah, that's literally what I was just going to say.
Really? Oh my gosh. Weird. Yeah. Love that. So yeah, those are the articles that I have for today. What did you think?
I love them. Well, no, and I like that they're so relatable.
Right.
It's not just like, oh, the flea market is spicing it up this summer and doing X, Y, and Z. Like these are like real people who have been either greatly impacted positively from the flea market or people who have a very high following, who have kind of sparked a debate, maybe. Yep. Do you have a favorite?
Okay, so I was thinking overview when I was reading all of these. I'm like, man, like
they're all so different, but like
they
so
are.
Cool.
But it goes back to kind of like our mission here, where it's like making fleas sexy, where it's like there are normal average people out there doing really cool things, and I love that so much that it's like, you know, wherever you are in your life, whether you're a hunter, like the first girl, whether you're just, you know, trying to find a cool item and then, you know, going viral over it. Yeah. Or whether you're just, you know, actually appreciating like old school things and like presenting it to people. Like I love that. And then just this other part where it's like, man, like there's a whole business model kind of designed around flea markets. I just think it's so freaking cool. And I agree. I love it so much. So I was really like kind of moved by all of them, and like reading these stories, I'm like, dang, like this is the business that we're in, and I love it. I love that we can contribute to that. I agree. Yeah, so I don't have a favorite. They were all pretty good, but
yeah, it's interesting. You know, now I'm kind of, you know, leaving this episode, and in my head, I'm like, okay, what is vintage? What in my house?
What is vintage?
Is vintage? Do I have any vintage?
Seriously, what can we flip around here?
Yeah, right.
All right, and so just ending this episode, we haven't played this game before, but I was pretty intrigued by it. It's called word association.
Oh boy.
So we got to move fast. Okay. So I'm going to say a word.
And then I have to tell you the first thing that comes to mind.
First thing that comes to your mind. Gosh. Fast. Ready?
Okay.
Ariana Maddox.
Vanderpump Rules.
Failure.
Loss.
Kobe Bryant.
Hottie.
Detroit.
My home.
Fun.
Rachel.
Lame.
Loser.
Salon.
Hair.
Taco.
My favorite.
Summer.
The best.
BMW.
My first car.
Stilettos.
Too high.
Summer.
Summer. Sunshine.
Smart.
Dumb.
Bear.
Lion.
Kylie Jenner.
Baddie.
Lucha Libre.
Wrestlers.
Sexy.
The Flea.
Funny.
Kristina.
Mustard.
Way better than ketchup.
Nails.
Long.
Purple.
Pink.
Love. Great job.
That was like...
I'm like, are you sweating?
My hands are wet. Not wet, but
oh my god.
No, because like I feel like a few things I have like a couple words for, and I'm like,
right, I know.
Okay, opposite.
I hate it. No, people. Yeah. Love that. Well, maybe we'll bring this one back. Okay. I love it. It's so fun. Yeah, so, anyways, all right. Well, thank you so much for hearing these headlines. Thank you. As always, I'll drop them in the comments so you can check them out for yourself.
Yeah. And like always, if you like this episode, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel.
Yes. And thank you for watching another episode of You,
Me,
and The Flea. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.